Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers.
And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 16, Episode 13. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Wednesday, Steelers Nation. Dave, getting ready for the Pittsburgh Steelers preseason finale, Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, against the Carolina Panthers. That is an away game in Charlotte. Dave, a lot going on here as usual. We got roster moves, roster predictions, roster reaction, everything roster related. Dave, how you doing?
Hey, good morning. Happy Wednesday. Carolina on my mind. And this will probably be the boringest of, I don't know. We got a lot to talk about who might be in and might be out this week, overall. But, obviously the Thursday night preseason game to look forward to, the team, I suppose, traveling today. Got a couple of interviews to talk about, media sessions. Mike Tomlin obviously meeting the media yesterday. As you said, a couple of moves to talk about. Where would you like to start this morning?
I'm not even sure where to begin. And yeah, this one may be a little more exciting because the starters, at least some guys we haven't seen, may play to some degree. Mike Tomlin confirming 4 players who won't play, but leaving the door open for all others. We'll talk about that in a few. But Dave, let's start with the transactions because there are a lot of them. And maybe that's typical before that last preseason game on a short week, tight turnaround, and a couple of injury things dinging this team. So Pittsburgh making a flurry of moves the last couple of days. I'll read them off to you, the acquisitions and then the players going out the door for one reason or another. Signed to the roster is defensive back Cam Alexander, which I think we talked about mid-show on Monday. Long snapper Jake McQuaid, offensive tackle Julian Pearl, and linebacker, seems like an edge, Kenny Wilkes. Those going out the door in a corresponding move. Waived injured were offensive tackle Gareth Warren and linebacker Devin Harper. Wide receiver Roc Taylor, the intriguing rookie, and defensive lineman Braden Pahoko in his second stint with Pittsburgh have been released. So Pittsburgh getting some depth here, offensive tackle, with the O-line really getting thin because of injuries. McQuaid added for Christian Kuntz in that sternum injury. It seems like he has a chance to be there for week 1, Kuntz does, and so that is good news. Not as long-term as initially reported or potentially first thought. And then Wilkes and Alexander, some depth overall. So a lot to react to, Dave.
Yeah, the McQuaid, I don't know. Didn't that come in during our other show along with Cam Alexander somewhere in the middle of there? But I think, boy, a lot changed in that 12-hour span there. It went from broken sternum to maybe going to miss a lot of time to, I think Dulac now says bruised sternum, and they think he might be back week 1. The Gareth Warren, he got concussed late in that game the other night, so he was waived injured. Devin Harper was waived injured, as you stated. Fahoko didn't last too terribly long. His contract was terminated. Pearl in the door, don't know too much about him, but obviously needed another offensive lineman with Warren getting dinged there. Kenny Willix knew a little bit about him from a couple of years ago. Edge rusher out of Michigan State. Be fun to watch him run around in this final preseason game. And I guess the most intriguing name, I guess, would be the Roc Taylor being waived, and that was not injury related. And I think Ray Fittipaldo of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette kind of hinted or said or thinks in his chat the other day that Roc might have gotten in the doghouse of Mike Tomlin during the joint practice. I guess that was a week ago against Tampa Bay, and he obviously made it to the game against the Buccaneers, but did not make it to the finale. And it's never good with today's kind of roster structure and the dates of the transaction and the full cut down coming in at one time. In the older days when you used to have the click downs of, cutting down to certain amounts, like I think it was 75 at one point, halfway through this, some of these guys would circle back, occasionally to the practice squad, but it's never a good sign when with these new rules, with like a guy like Roc Taylor goes out the door this early. So maybe he did get in somebody's doghouse there. I still don't think he was a 53-man roster guy. I don't think you did as well too, but yeah, this was a guy that, several people kind of wondered if he might end up on the practice squad. And now that seems like that might not even be a case with him. So I think that's kind of recapped there. I guess the big question there is, will indeed Christian Kuntz make it back to week one? And if he doesn't, you know, you might be in a situation where you have to carry two long snappers on your initial 53-man roster, depending on how many guys, if this team sends two to IR early, a lot of minutia to be worked out there still, I think, when it comes to some of these injured guys. But keep your fingers crossed that Kuntz will make it back to week one, and that all we have to see is Jake McQuaid snap in one preseason game against the Panthers.
I think the plan would be, assuming that Kuntz is borderline for week one, you cut McQuaid at cutdowns, you sign him back to the practice squad and elevate him if you need him for that week one game and play that game until Kuntz is 100% and ready to go, rather than keeping two on the initial 53, because it sounds like Kuntz won't need an IR stint to begin the year, which is good news. He may just be inactive for that week one game, and that's probably where you play the elevation game just to work around that, is my thought on Jake McQuaid. I don't know if that news came through during the show. I think the workouts were known. He was one of the four. I don't think the signing was official
Okay.
on McQuaid until after. He's a two-time Pro Bowler, almost 200 career games, 37 years old, snapped for the Dolphins and the Vikings last season. So a veteran guy who's been there, done that, got all the T-shirts kind of thing. So that's the story on Jake McQuaid.
Yeah, that's a good point about potentially, because he was obviously out on the street. Most teams, barring them suffering an injury to a long snapper in this preseason finale, probably not going to need a long snapper. So the potential of if you don't have to send Christian Kuntz, if in other words, if it's not a multi-week injury, if you think he may or may not be ready for week one or possibly ready by week two or week three, you just cut McQuaid, keep Kuntz on the 53, and then, like you said, play the elevation game until Kuntz is ready to go.
On Roc Taylor, I was certainly surprised. Like I'm sure most Steeler fans were about seeing his name on that list. The doghouse thing is interesting, and that's one component. It's always tough to judge from afar. We don't know what doghouse might mean for joint practice to me, and this is pure speculation. It would be a fight of some sort. Joint practices, the rule is no fighting. If you fight, you get taken out of practice. And for a rookie like him, if he mix it up with somebody, maybe that's what gets you into the doghouse. It could be something else, obviously. I think also lack of special teams value for Roc Taylor probably didn't hurt him in this battle with Max Hurlman and Keyshawn Williams, guys that are a little more versatile, who can wear more hats, be it return game, gunner game, that type of stuff, all that Hurlman is able to offer. So Taylor may have gotten the squeeze for that, but certainly it was surprising to see his name really headline those guys on the outs.
And once again, to get cut that early with one preseason game left with today's rules, it's not out of the question. I guess he could go back to the practice squad, but you would think so at this point. Let's roll down the injuries of what we know of the injured guys right now heading into this preseason finale. Obviously, you got Will Heyward not expected to play because of the finger/hand injury that he's dealing with. Who's next to talk about on the list? Calvin Austin III, working his way back. It sounds like Mike Tomlin sort of left the light on for him here. So it sounds like even if he doesn't play in this game, he's at least close to week one, even though Calvin Austin's saying, I'm just going to follow what the trainers do, blah, blah, blah. Ben Skoranek has got a toe that he's dealing with, and that explained him not playing in that second preseason game. You kind of hope that he'll be ready to go by week one. Rolling through some of these other names, Ryan McCollum. I don't. Did Mike Tomlin mention him yesterday?
He didn't, but he did talk about before the Bucks game that there was a chance for McCollum to return. So I imagine there's a greater chance he can suit up for Carolina.
All right. Moving on past McCollum, Calvin Anderson. I don't know if we have any new updates on him.
No, none that I've heard of.
All right. Isaac Seumalo, there was a picture of him on the Steelers website from practice yesterday of him in pads. So take that for whatever it's worth there. I know there's been a little bit of question. It'd be interesting to see if he's healthy enough to go out, roll out there for a couple snaps with the offensive line on Thursday night. So that's a little bit of an update on him. Oh, who else is dinged up right now as I roll through this thing? Alex Highsmith, I think back, at least in pads, running around. Sounds like he should be hopefully good to go by week 1 if he doesn't play in this game Thursday night. Oh, who else rolling through some of these? Alex?
Nick Herbig did not practice yesterday. Doubt he'll go for Carolina, but hopefully be good for week number 1. Corey Trice Jr., I did see that video you sent me of him doing some stuff on the side. I think it'd be a surprise and upset if he played against Carolina, but could he be a guy that doesn't have to go on IR to start the year? Maybe they put him on there anyway just to stash him. We'll see. Let's see what
Did
else.
Mike Tomlin mention him by name yesterday or no?
He did not. He mentioned Dante Kent working his way back, the rookie corner who's missed a large chunk of the summer with a right foot injury of some sort. So I don't know the capacity for that. Obviously a rookie, a lot of missed time. Don't know status for sure. Probably in that Trice boat of an upset to play against Carolina, but maybe can be healthy and good to go for practice squad in week number 1.
All right. Let's see. Who else here? You mentioned Trice.
I think that's the group off the top of my head.
Okay.
That we know of, at least.
All right. How many of those guys do you think are legitimate move to IR as one of 2 players potentially as we sit here right now?
It's still difficult to say, not being there and not knowing some of the minutia of how they doing stuff on the side. Are they individual? Are they full team? Obviously, who plays in this game and who doesn't can provide some sort of window. Anderson, I would assume, could still be one because I've heard nothing on his status for a return. McCollum won't be. Calvin Austin won't be. He should be good for week 1. It's apparently oblique, by the way. Aaron Rodgers kind of slipped. It was oblique. They were testing yesterday, so that's kind of been the thing he's been dealing with. Always felt like it was going to be an upper body thing because you watch him at training camp, he walked around fine without any sort of ailment or limp or apparatus on his leg. So Trice, Kent, Calvin Anderson, maybe Will Howard. Those are kind of the names I'm circling right now.
All right. And then obviously we'll see what happens in this final preseason game there. So I think that's kind of the housekeeping as far as transactions and the dinged up players go.
Just a quick note on some of the other guys Pittsburgh signed. Is it Willikes? I don't know how to say his last name right now. That sounds right.
I'll have to go back and look.
He's a former 7th-round pick out of Michigan State by the Vikings. He played a bit in 2021, got a couple of sacks, has not appeared in an NFL game since. And Julian Pearl, big offensive tackle at Illinois, undrafted free agent last year. I actually wrote the scouting report on him at the time. He's got some size, a technique I didn't love at the time. Obviously uphill battle for all those guys, but for Pearl at offensive tackle, with lines being really thin there, if there's a good showing, maybe he sticks around on the practice squad.
Was he mostly right side guy?
No, he was left tackle.
Left? Okay. All right.
Yeah. All right, Dave, one guy who was back at practice yesterday, at least in some capacity, was Cam Heyward. Reporters seeing him in pads going through individual drills. At least that was the video. Now, that was not necessarily really notable to me because he was doing that at training camp even after the negotiation revised contract request came out. Not every day. He would get off days and come down late in a T-shirt and shorts, but there were certainly days where he was working, on the side and individually and hitting the blocking sled, all that kind of stuff. But Mike Tomlin had told reporters he also worked in the team period, which would definitely be notable the first time he would have done that since the acclimation period to begin training camp. So has Cam caved? Is the holding over? Is he just getting good work in? Is this a sign of good faith? How do you interpret it?
I do not know, and we don't. The public salary cap, something. Even if something was guaranteed, it's not like the salary cap number would have moved on that. And besides that, all this stuff going on with the NFLPA right now, they have been very, very slow with updating the public salary cap page. So Mike Tomlin was asked specifically about, does this mean anything's been settled with Cam Heyward's contract? And he says, you have to ask Cam. So no info there. And Cam evidently declined to talk to the media yesterday. So I don't know. Aaron Rodgers was sure playfully giving him the business the other day when him and DK Metcalf were on on Cam Heyward's podcast. I don't know if that maybe kind of prodded Cam or if he just felt, look, I've made my point at this point. Both of us kind of knew that there was probably he wasn't going to miss any games regardless of his contract situation. And look, I mean, he still possibly could. You can't 100% rule that out at this point here, but it's notable news because he's back in team. So I think really just the byproduct of that news in and of itself, regardless of what has or hasn't happened with his contract right now, is that he's going to be there week 1.
Will the contract be different, though? Is he sitting there saying, well, I tried, they're not budging, so I might as well just get back to it? Did they call us bluff here?
I don't know if it's so much that as much as it is maybe some peer pressure in Rodgers and him just saying, look, I made my point. Everybody knows how I feel about it now. Season's a couple of weeks away. There's not many, they're obviously after this Panthers game, and Cam's not going to play in this game against the Panthers. They're going to be off until when will they resume practice? They obviously won't practice on Friday.
I'm not sure when they'll come back. Tuesday,
Yeah.
Wednesday next week. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's and then you start preparations and all like that. It's probably him just getting back in the thick of things and all. So I mean, it's hard to really say. I still think that they could and should do something with his contract, but if they don't, they don't. But I once again, I think the main takeaway here is he's going to be there in week 1, and the only question is whether or not something does get done with his contract.
And functionally, from our perspective, from a fan perspective, him being there week 1 is the only thing that matters. Obviously, he wants the contract. The team probably wants to keep things status quo. That'll get handled however it gets handled, one way or the other. But he'll be out there for the Jets game, and that's really all that it comes down to from our standpoint. I don't think it was a Rodgers thing. That interview was recorded. I think that was the last day of training camp that Rodgers, that interview occurred. So I know it aired yesterday, but I think Heyward either just wanted to keep the knife sharp and get some reps in because he hasn't worked in team in a while, or maybe it was a sign of good faith, or all of the above. I'm not quite sure, but maybe we go into the regular season and nothing's changed. The team says, we're not adjusting your contract, Cam. You can play or not. And of course he's going to play.
Rodgers was quite playful with him, though, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he definitely ribbed him a little bit. But that's kind of like Aaron Rodgers in a nutshell, just kind of sarcastic, joking, giving it to all the guys. So, I mean, yeah, I agree with you there.
Right. All right.
I'm not even sure where to go from here. There's so much happening right now with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Gabe Davis is not a Steeler and may not become a Steeler. He had a visit yesterday with the Steelers that was reflected on the NFL transaction sheet. But actually, I think all this came in right after we did our Monday show. So I should kind of reset here. Davis coming in for a second visit with Pittsburgh. No signing occurred. He is now taking a visit to his old team, the Buffalo Bills. And so we'll see what happens there. Davis has been working back from that knee injury suffered in Jacksonville last season. Followed him on social media, him posting updates of him rehabbing, recovering, getting back to football work. So Pittsburgh wanting to take a second look at that. But as of now, 2 visits, no contract for Gabe Davis.
Yeah, let's revisit that topic for just a little bit. Obviously, you bring a guy like that in for 2 visits and checking on his health and all like that. There's a level of interest there. That's undeniable at this point. And when you look at the wide receiver room and you look at how potentially Gabe Davis can help this team, vertically down the field. This is a guy that's the Steelers are a team that he's victimized, especially a couple of seasons ago, coming off the injury. Obviously, the Jaguars cut him this offseason. He's got guaranteed money that he's getting from them. If the Steelers were to offer him a contract and to sign him, you wouldn't think it would be much of anything, potentially even just a vet benefit contract, much in the way that the team did with Russell Wilson, coming off of the guaranteed money that he got from the Broncos last year. I would imagine, however, there would probably be a lot of teams that wouldn't mind adding Gabe Davis at a veteran benefit contract. So this might be him shopping himself. This might be himself just showcasing a bunch of teams that, yeah, I'm healthy, I can run. If the Steelers did wind up signing him, I don't think you can really qualify him as a quote unquote number two, because I envision this just being another guy to go in with kind of a by committee number two approach, a guy with a lot that you could play along with Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin, and then obviously Gabe Davis, depending on situational personnel grouping and all like that. So looking at Gabe Davis and thinking that this would be a guy, quote unquote, number two, a guy that would play 40 to 50 snaps a game, I think that's a little rich. I think if the Steelers were to add a guy like him, once again, it would be on the cheap, and it would be a guy that you use situationally, a guy that can obviously stretch the field. Look, I mean, a lot of people saying, well, he's really kind of a one-trick pony and all like that. It's not a bad trick to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cheap speed.
With and that's probably one of the biggest things when I'm getting him out there after he warms up in a workout or whatever, bringing him in to look at his health. And I don't even know if it got this far, probably look at the medicals and all like that. But if I did get him out on the field, I'd say, run, run, Davis, run. Cause if he can't stretch the field, I mean, that's one of the prime characteristics of him, throughout his time in the NFL, was his ability to take the tops off coverages there. So, we'll see where this goes. I know there was a report from a couple of Buffalo beat writers yesterday about Josh Allen talking about, hey, he's excited to see his old friend, teammate come in and all like that. So, and look, Buffalo turned around and signed. They're dinged up a little bit at wide receiver position, and they even, I think, signed a wide receiver yesterday to probably help them get through the preseason finale. And then, a lot can obviously happen in the final week of the preseason as well too, as far as injuries. So this is to be determined right now, but it is kind of rare for the Steelers to bring in a guy for 2 visits and still not sign him.
Yeah, you would think that initial indication was there was going to be a signing there, but I guess it really was a medical follow-up, because that first visit where he came in before camp, he was not close to ready. He was not even really getting back to football activity yet, and he's been doing a lot of route running and training on the side then. So this is probably a much closer look of, okay, you're rehabbing, how's it going? How close could you be to return? And just how do you look and feel overall? But it's cheap speed. As you said, it would be for the minimum because Jacksonville's on the hook for that contract. And so you pay him just as little as you have to and let Jacksonville eat the rest of it. This would not be a number 2. I'm not even sure exactly what his status would be for week 1. If he'd have to get his legs under him still, maybe it would be a week 1 inactive, but you can deal with that if he's getting paid veteran minimum money.
Right.
But just so you would always have speed on the field, be it Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, Gabe Davis, Scotty Miller, you'd always have that speed threat over the top. So when teams double DK Metcalf or put 8 in the box to stop the run, you always have that solo coverage with Rodgers' arm, which is still very much live. You'd always have that threat of the big play. And Pittsburgh's looking for some chunk plays in the passing game. It's why Roman Wilson's work has been encouraging. Does the fact that Davis is coming in, even though it probably is a big just medical component to it, does that signal Pittsburgh is unsatisfied with the receiver spot, or is this just due diligence?
I kind of view it as due diligence, but they're not above adding somebody on the cheap who can potentially stretch the field.
I think so. I think it's an opportunity to get that cheap speed guy out there and get a look at him, especially with Calvin Austin. Now, if Austin had been healthy all summer and was crushing it and Wilson was making progress, do you make this move? Maybe not, but I think with Austin being shelved, even though it sounds like he'll be good for week 1, I think you want to just keep doors open at receiver.
And look, I think you maybe brought this up during the live stream the other night and all, if a guy like, say, Romeo Dubs for whatever reason, and look, I haven't revisited the Packers situation. Isn't Watson supposed to start the season on PP or something like that for them? I think they're a little bit dinged up. The Packers are at wide
Yep.
receiver, but let's say a guy like Romeo Dubs was available or listening to offers on him. Do I think you should explore it? Yeah, absolutely, I do, because I think you got a potential of a more legitimate number two type receiver, and even at his price tag, with him being having a slight bump. What did we say he was, 3 million something on the proven performance escalator in the final year? Now look, with him, with this being the last year of his contract, are you giving up serious draft capital for 2026? Absolutely not. There, but I mean, if you could add a guy like Romeo Dubs, and it obviously doesn't feel like it's going that direction. But even if it's not him specifically, if it was someone else out there, we wondered about what's going on maybe with Christian Kirk and others, maybe that they've had recent interest in. If you could add a guy like that on the cheap and it not cost you a lot of draft capital, the team should look at it, especially if it's more of a quote unquote number two type wide receiver.
The Texans did just trade a receiver to PA, but not to Pittsburgh. It was John Mechie going to Philadelphia for, I think, a pick swap and a tight end, Harrison Bryant, former Cleveland Brown, going in there, kind of gets you a lay of the land of what value might be. Dubs would be worth more than that, I would think, but point taken overall. I'm going to be annoying one more time, Dave, and I'll tease it a little bit for tomorrow, for Thursday, some pregame reading. I have 5 trade suggestions that make sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll spoil one because I mentioned it so many times. Alec Pierce for the Colts. Daniel Jones was just named the starting quarterback. He is not the strong arm, throw it downfield type of guy that meshes well with Pierce's vertical skill set. And that's the guy that I would be calling about all day long. Last year was contract. He's big. He can run. He's proven type of guy. The hands are not maybe the best in the world, but he is definitely a speed component on the outside. Get him for a day 3 pick. I would do that all day long.
He's dealing with a groin or something, isn't he, right now?
He is. It's considered minor to my understanding, so there is that element of it, but nothing that I think. Obviously, any injury for any player requiring, and can you get him on the practice field right away, all has to be considered,
right.
But it seems to be minor.
Well, I mean, you've been talking about Alec Pierce now for 3 seasons.
Probably at least 2 seasons, yeah. But I think certainly with Richardson not being the starter, because he was the guy that worked with him the best, because Richardson would air it out with an unlimited arm that he has. When you have Downs and Pittman and A.D. Mitchell there, Pierce could get squeezed out. Last year of his contract, maybe it won't happen at cut downs because the Colts want to keep their talent. But assuming the Colts are not very good this year at the trade deadline, if you still need receiver help, I'm still circling that guy.
Nope, nobody could ever accuse you of not being way out ahead of this one if this one happens with Alec Pierce.
I mean, I'm just a guy that plays the same lotto numbers each day. And that's how smart I was whenever I hit them 50 years later. But I'm going to do my victory lap if it comes true, which even though it probably won't come true.
Well, you know what they say, you don't play those lottery numbers one time. That's when they hit.
That's when they get you. Exactly. You got to stay committed to the bit.
All right. I don't want to turn this into Colts Depot, but what do you think about what they're doing over there at quarterback?
It's not shocking to me Jones was named the starter. It's kind of funny that Jones is viewed as this kind of consistent, stable presence at quarterback, even though he's not been that throughout his career. But just compared to Anthony Richardson, he seems a little more stable. But I figured Jones was going to win that job. It's probably why he signed there over staying with Minnesota or going somewhere else in the first place.
And I don't want to get into comparisons and all like that, especially to a person who's passed away now. But is this sort of kind of like a Dwayne Haskins situation with him? Just big arm, just the accuracy and all like that.
Yeah, I can see the parallels overall. All I know, and this is slightly relevant because the Steelers play the Colts this year, so who their quarterback is going to matter to some degree. Will Jones be the quarterback then? Who knows? But
I think he said that, and obviously these things change, but he come out and said he's going to be he's our quarterback for the season, didn't he?
Yeah, they all say that, like you said. So we'll see, maybe. But it is relevant from that standpoint. So I do see that comparison overall. All I know, Dave, is the Colts will be looking for a first-round quarterback next year. So join the club with Pittsburgh.
All right. That ends our Colts Depot portion of the podcast here. All right. You want to get into some more things that Mike Tomlin had to say yesterday?
Sure, let's start off with who's going to play, or really who's not going to play. Tomlin more definitive with the latter. He said 4 players will not suit up for this finale, meaning these 4 will not have played a single preseason snap. No Aaron Rodgers, no DK Metcalf, no TJ Watt, and no Cam Heyward. Everyone else, the light will be left on. Now, Tomlin didn't guarantee some of those guys will play. He said it'll be partially dictated off of what Carolina does. The Panthers have already said they're going to play their backup, so I'm not sure how that impacts Pittsburgh's plans, but no Rodgers, no Metcalf, no Heyward, no Watt.
All right. Fool me once. How does the saying goes? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I one of the main takeaways that I had yesterday from one of the more, I guess, things worth noteworthy that Mike Tomlin said is that he'd like to get some of these guys, particularly in the secondary, on the field. Meaning, obviously, Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, Joey Porter Jr., and probably Deshaun Elliott, because none of those guys have seen any action in any preseason game. He mentioned cohesion is a major component of what they do, the ability to communicate in stadium. It's the same reason why the young offensive front has been working. Obviously, they lack the collective experience that we have in the secondary, so they play through some, but I'm excited and maybe about maybe seeing that secondary in the stadium. Again, it will be good to have a dance partner, blah, blah, blah. And we already, and to what degree, look, I'll tell you who's not playing at quarterback for the Carolina Panthers on Thursday night. That's Bryce Young and Andy Dalton. Dalton's dealing with an injury, and I think they just want to put the wrapper on Bryce Young at this point. So that means you're probably going to see Jack Plummer starting this one, and it'd be interesting to see what kind of wide receivers they throw out there as well too. And Mike Tomlin made sure to kind of say that a lot will depend on what the Panthers roll out there and all like that. I would imagine he's going to get with Dave Canales before game and say, "Hey, are you playing so and so? Are you playing so and so?" I wonder if this is going to be, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. Nah, we're not going to do it. And how wet is it supposed to be? Do we even know what the weather's going to be like with this storm coming in to over there on the East Coast or getting close to there and all like that? Is Mike Tomlin going to all of a sudden going to get cold feet and pull the plug on Ramsey, Slay, Porter, and Elliott playing?
That's a good point about the weather. Hurricane Aaron's going to stay off the coast, but it looks like for around kickoff, 35% chance of rain, scattered thunderstorms. So just kind of going to be hit and miss on that. I had thought that the decision would be more in a vacuum. So I think I was wrong about that. When you hear Tomlin talk about maybe we'll play our guys if they play their guys. Should that be the lens in which Tomlin views it? I mean, obviously, I know if they throw out Tetero McMillan, then that's a better matchup for Jalen Ramsey and company. But isn't it about just getting good work, getting these guys on the field, getting them in a stadium environment, communicating on the road like that before going on the road week 1 of the Jets? Should it just be more about getting some reps in as opposed to getting great matchups?
Yeah, I mean, in a vacuum, like you said, yes, because I mean, he went out of his way to say the cohesiveness and the communication and just get those guys out there running around together. But how many plays do you have to see before you're comfortable with that too? I mean,
Not
are
many.
you going to get that accomplished with 4, 5, 8, 12, 18?
I just think the process is good to go through warm-ups inside a stadium to get some of those reps in, even if it's a couple. And yeah, you might not get a good matchup. You might get their backup receivers. And as you said, Jack Plummer throwing, but this isn't about evaluating can Ramsey play and cover. Well, you already had a joint practice where you got to go up against Mike Evans and Ibuka and those talented receivers. So you've already gotten looks at kind of some good talent. I just want to get inside a stadium before this thing becomes live September 7th.
Could this just be a ploy? I'm telling my guys they're going to play. I want want to make sure they go through their pregame workout as if they were going to play, and then all of a sudden pulling the plug on them.
Sure, we've seen that before, and maybe that's going to be the overall thought from Tomlin. So, to be determined. You think some of these, at least Porter's going to play, you would think, regardless in this one, right? Just to get some reps.
I have gone in. You got to be dangerous with these who to look for post in these preseason games, right? Because you're 99% that this guy is going to play, and you write him up as you'll have two guys in there that who to look for in a post before game, and you get the game time, and again, and the guy doesn't play. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Let me ask you this: Who do you want to see play? If you were Mike Tomlin, if you were making the decisions, would you dictate it based off of Carolina's decision and their depth chart? Would you hold anyone out in particular? Would you play Rodgers, play Ramsey, etc.?
I mean, look, once again, this goes back to a selfishness standpoint. I think more than anything, you could definitely see both sides of it. And Aaron Rodgers was asked specifically, what's one thing that he'd like to see come out of this game? Health. People to come out healthy. It's a double-edged sword, right? I don't care what preseason it is, new quarterback, veteran secondary, new secondary. You damned if you do, you damned if you don't. Right?
Sure. So it always is.
It's always something that's just looked at in the rearview mirror type of situation. Am I concerned about Ramsey, Porter, Slay, Elliott not communicating, not having cohesiveness come week one if they don't get out there and run around for 7 snaps? No. At its core, no. Am I concerned about who the team's playing on the other side? No.
So would you play? Would you play Jalen Ramsey?
No.
Okay, you would sit him. Would you play Darius Slay?
No.
Joey Porter Jr.?
No.
Okay, so you're kind of taking the Tomlin approach from the first 2 games of just sit all the critical personnel.
Now, would I personally like to see those guys running around out there? Yeah, I think I would. But if I'm a coach at this point of training camp, and I got those guys healthy, and I got to see them go through a joint practice and yada yada, I'm not sure I would roll them out there, Alex.
I wouldn't play Heyward or Watt. It's not needed. Too much value there. I'd play everybody else because either they're new to the team, like an Aaron Rodgers or a DK Metcalf, or I want to get some work in inside the stadium before doing it against the Jets whenever the games start counting. That'd be my approach, regardless of who Carolina plays.
All right. Would you play any of those secondary guys in this game, knowing what you know right now?
Yeah, like I said, I would. Not for long. Maybe a series, maybe 2 at most. And if the field is a mess, if it's pouring, then okay, I probably would not play any of the key guys in this one. But assuming the field is in good condition overall, I would get those guys lathered up.
All right. What do you think happens? Put your Jim Cantori hat on too.
I think you've convinced me that Ramsey and company will dress. They'll go through warm-ups. We'll hear the report from Pomp or Missy Matthews. Here's Jalen Ramsey going through warm-ups, and then they're going to stay on the sideline for the entire game.
All right. I'm hedging that. Maybe Mike Tomlin will surprise. I'm just saying when he said all that he said. Now look, I do think if he would have left out the but I'm hopeful to get an opportunity to play, particularly in the secondary. I'm not worried about the overall readiness of the collection. I think the key statement there is the cohesion. If he had left out the statement, I just think the cohesion is such a major component of what they do, the ability to communicate in the stadium. If he would have left that part out, I'd be more willing to bet your house on them not playing. But the fact that he put that in there does lead some aspect of kind of wondering if he'll roll those guys out there.
I mean, it does seem like he wants to play in his heart of hearts, but we know Carolina's apparently benching their starters in this game. So they're not going to get the looks, which is what Tomlin seems like he needs to put Jalen Ramsey out there to justify whatever risk there is of injury. So I assume that's how the conversation will go. Hey, Coach Tomlin, this is Dave Canales, not playing our starters. Okay, well, we're not going to suit up. or they'll suit up, but they're not going to play Ramsey and company.
All right. We probably spent way too much time talking about veteran guys playing, but it's what we do. Hey, it's probably one of the most intriguing things when it comes to this game.
Well, let me ask you one question in that similar vein. Does Isaac Seumalo play? I think he should. I want that front five out there for in its entirety for one game for a couple snaps.
Yeah, I think that's a difference, and he kind of hit on this too. The young offensive line and the cohesion and all like that. You want that group, and as we stated, and somebody must read or listen to the podcast and read our Twitter timelines, because somebody specifically asked him, Tomlin, yesterday, you've only run 5 running plays on with your starting offensive line so far through 2 preseason games. Yeah, I want to see those guys out there, and I want to see them run 8, 9 running plays, regardless of down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's third and 12. Run the football. Yeah. If Isaac's healthy enough and all like that, and whatever the game plan is to play the other offensive linemen, yeah, I want him out there. I do.
I'm with you, and I think you're right. A run heavy approach should be the mode in this one, given the pass heavy nature of the first 2 games, which I can appreciate, facing starting defenses and good pass rushers, and wanting to give your young tackles, your young offensive line some looks back there. But I would certainly be pounding the rock more in this game to get some of that work in. Should note, just kind of as an aside, apparently Dalton Reisner, and this is kind of a weird situation to note, but he's considering a visit to the Steelers. He has not visited the Steelers. He's a veteran offensive guard, formerly of the Broncos and Vikings. He had taken a visit to Cincinnati. He's got one planned to Seattle and is considering a visit to Pittsburgh, which means Pittsburgh is at least considering bringing him in for a visit. So what is there, if any, to be read into that, Dave?
All I will say this is he better be ready to consider a vet benefit contract.
True.
There's, for someone to report it, especially, who was it? Fowler, I think,
yes,
on that one.
Jeremy Fowler.
There's some smoke to it, and could this team obviously use a guy that's played interior like that as a potential upgrade? Yeah, I think they should. How will it? I imagine there's some, as Fowler mentioned, there's a few teams interested in him as well too. So, if he's willing to take a vet benefit contract, if no other team wants him, then I think something could happen there. But until he comes in, it feels like it's just a lot of will he.
I just think, does this speak to Pittsburgh having an appetite to add some interior offensive line help? Do they really trust Spencer Anderson as that top backup? They've talked him up a decent amount. He's currently in that position. But if they can upgrade an offensive line, even along the interior, it seems like they're open to that. We've talked about offensive tackle quite a bit, but maybe guard to look at as well.
Sure.
Dave, speaking of this preseason game, let's talk about some battles. We have our roster predictions after the game, our final ones. Who are you most watching for? Because even if the veterans play, they get some snaps in. It's not a whole lot to note there. Just leave healthy. That's the entire goal. So which Steelers really need a good game to cement their case in this one, Dave?
I think, and Mike Tomlin's talked, or at least Terrell Austin did the other day about Beanie Bishop. I think even though kind of through process of elimination and guys like Corey Trice not playing, and I mean, you just look at the rest of the competition, it might come down just more to a numbers thing than it does the individual. But it sounds like, just leaving my thoughts out of it, seems like they are trying to prod Beanie to, let's see your best game of the preseason Thursday night against the Panthers.
Yeah, I still think he's inside the bubble right now. It felt a little more motivational tactic to me than truly him being in danger. Now, what's his role for this team? It certainly has diminished compared to a year ago. What a difference a year makes. Last year, it was whoever is healthy at slot corner will be our slot corner. That's basically what it came down to, and Beanie Bishop was that guy until Cam Sutton came off suspension. This year, it's Bishop might be your third string slot corner behind, of course, Jalen Ramsey, and looks like even Brandon Echols, who was running ahead of him in the preseason game against Tampa Bay. I know they just wanted to get Echols some work in there and get that work in early. So is that a true reflection of the depth chart? Maybe, maybe not. But point is, Bishop not going to have an immediate role, and his special teams value is not particularly strong. So James Pierre, if he makes a team, could get the hat over him. I still think Pittsburgh wants to have good cornerback depth. You have injuries to Kent and Trice have thinned out the herd a little bit, but I think he makes it. Certainly would be good for him and for the team if he has a great game, though.
All right, moving on from a guy like that in Beanie Bishop, I think this is a big game for Andres Pete, potentially. And I think maybe we hit on this more on the live stream the other night. I thought, and us talking the other day on Monday about the All-22, I thought Pete was fine at left guard. So I've got some answers there. I would like to see him go back to left tackle and play a lot in this game at left tackle because I think there's a potential for him, especially with Calvin Anderson banged up right now. I think there's a potential roster spot for him if he can have a good game and show some that he's complement at left tackle. So I think it's a big game for him. And then in the same breath, I mean, Dylan Cook, I think is kind of in that conversation as well. Will we see maybe Dylan Cook play a little bit in some interior in this one? It feels kind of less likely the way they're kind of banged up right now positionally, but they did bring in that other tackle. Obviously Warren was a tackle as well too, but I think those are two guys on the offensive line that I'm interested to look at the tape on in Andres Pete and Dylan Cook, and really Pete more so at tackle.
Yeah, I think the final offensive line spots will be really important and intriguing to watch in this one. Sharping, Pete, even Dylan Cook. I don't want to assume that he's written in pen, even though he's been available and working, and Calvin Anderson has that injury that leaves his status uncertain. So I think the offensive line, I think the back end for both trenches, offensive line, defensive line, you're watching there. The O-line we just talked about, D-line, Loudermilk, Logan Lee. Is Lee fighting for that seventh defensive lineman or to maybe start on the practice squad? That might be more the battle than battling Loudermilk directly. I think those are certainly some things to watch.
I do think I think the whole Loudermilk Logan Lee thing is intriguing at this point. Man, have you seen enough of Logan Lee yet? I mean, and look, Loudermilk's Loudermilk, right? But at least you know what you're getting there. Do you have enough on Logan Lee yet?
No, not at all. I mean, he missed his entire rookie season. He played 4 snaps in the opener. He did play more against Tampa Bay, and I thought played a pretty decent game. But no, that's a guy that should get a lot of burn in this one, especially with Fehoko released, and maybe you get some of the defensive linemen out there early. Obviously, Cam won't play in this one. Maybe, Benton doesn't need a whole lot of snaps in this game. I think you want to give Lee as much as he can handle.
Have you looking back at that first preseason game, have you thought about why Logan Lee only played the 4 or 5 snaps?
I mean, I think it was, like Y.A. Black, those defensive ends, they weren't in base a whole lot that game. Tampa was playing from behind, and so that just didn't, some guys get squeezed in that opener, just a little personnel type thing. Obviously, he played, I think, 18 or something snaps in the second game. So these things can ebb and flow. Maybe one guy doesn't play a lot in the first one, and then they give him those snaps back in the second game.
All right. Obviously, the punter, probably the most intriguing of everything right now. Mike Thomas said those guys will go, what do you say, toe for toe or blow for blow in this game. So there's definitely a punter battle going on here to some degree. And the loser of this punter battle could potentially end up being traded, plain and simple. And we've kind of stated that for quite a while now. So that's something to watch there.
I can't tell who has the edge at punter right now. Can you?
Can't either. No, I really can't. And you don't know specifically maybe some of the things that even on shorter punts that they're looking at as far as placement. And obviously there's not that much difference in a salary, but there is a little bit of difference. Look, the salary should not come into play here. Whoever you think is the best punter should be your punter. And what you get on the backside for potential trade really shouldn't matter either. I mean, you want to keep the best punter that you think can help you the most during this season. So there is some intrigue as far as that goes.
Wonder if Waitman being a left-footed punter could give him the edge in the tiebreaker because left-footed punters can create more problems for returners. The spin on the ball is different, and it can result in some more fumbles. Who was the punter when that Jets returner fumbled the ball? Not that it means a whole lot. Was that Waitman or was that Johnston on that punt?
I can find out real quick by just searching the name Hurlman in the playbook.
Oh, yeah, because he was the one who recovered it. That was a bad play by the Jets returner. He didn't even find the ball. He was standing to the left of it and let it bounce and then touched it. And
that was Waitman that punted that one.
Okay. Yeah, because sometimes I wonder if the spin on the ball can be weird that throws those returners off. Usually that results in more muffs than the ball just flat out hitting the ground. I wonder if that would be a component, but this thing is super close. Johnson has certainly proven he's healthy. He's had a really good summer. Waitman has been boobing the heck out of the football. He's averaging, 58 yards a punt this summer. I think his net, his gross are elite right now. So, we'll talk about our roster predictions here in a second. I think I'd give Waitman the small edge. This thing could go either way. I was also trying to see who needs a punter, and it's always tough to tell, but I really could not find a lot of punter-needy teams out there. So, obviously, trades in general for punters are tough, but it might be
I think the Dolphins might be. It sounded like they're kind of settling for a guy that they've made the decision on.
Oh, really? Who's there? They just released Ryan Stonehouse, so that Jake Bailey, I think, won that. But if they're already releasing a punter, then that tells me there's not a battle there, and they're comfortable with Bailey. Otherwise, they would have kept Stonehouse.
The other guy just wasn't. I mean, they've got to look at is can we even get better than our other guy? So
I mean that's true.
Waitman, I tell you what, Mike Tomlin says they're going to go blow for blow. Hadn't most of Waitman's punts been deeper or on the Steelers side of the field?
It seems like it. I haven't charted it, but it feels like more open grass just based on his average. And I know Johnson's got a couple inside the 20, so the numbers may not dictate it perfectly. I mean, Johnston has had a really good leg. He's punted the ball really well in camp, so both those guys can certainly boom it.
All right, well, let's do what we do here. Let me go through the game. Let's see. Waitman's first punt the other night was from the Steelers 32. That was 60 yards. His next punt was from the Steelers 38. That was 50 yards. His next one was from the Steelers 15. That was for 58 yards. And those were his punts from that game. Now let's go back and look at, I mean, this is just what we do, right? Let's look from the first preseason game when Waitman punted. You know what I'm trying to angle for here, right?
Sure. You're looking at, was he all open grass and was Johnston
right
in tighter?
Waitman against the Jaguars from the Steelers 24. And that was it because they didn't have to punt a lot in that game. I know Mike Tomlin said blow for blow. If I would like to see Waitman, regardless of whose turn it is, I wouldn't even go by turns. I would like to see Waitman put in a situation where he has to punt on a shorter, on a shorter field.
Yeah, it looks like Johnson's first punt against Tampa Bay came from the Bucs 44, so that was obviously a pin deep, not open grass situation there. I'm trying to find what his next one was. Next one was from the Steelers 48, so they've been punting in different situations, it looks like.
And Johnston in the first game punted from the Pittsburgh 45, so that's a little bit of a shorter field. And then he punted from the Steelers 35 late in the game.
Johnson also.
What do you have for the second one?
Yeah, his second one against Tampa Bay was from Pittsburgh's 25. That was a 49-yard punt, so that was an open grass punt.
All right, so maybe that's something to pay attention to in this one. Apologies to people listening to us just run through rabbit holes, but I think that might be something to look for in this one, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously these guys have NFL resumes; they know what they can do in all areas of the field. But I get your point.
All right, who else roster battle here?
I think maybe a little less for the 53, but practice squad, the receivers, are they going to keep three? What is Brandon Johnson's status? Can he still make a late push for the 53? You got Hurlman, you got Keyshawn Williams. I think running back for the practice squad is interesting. Trey Sermon versus Lou Nichols, who's had a very nice preseason showings in both games versus Evan Hull. I think, the cornerback battle, Deshaun Jameson. Can he capture and cement the practice squad spot at safety? Castro and Johnson, could they keep both, keep one? All things to watch for.
All right, agreed there. Jack Sawyer, he's going to make this roster, but I think I'd like to see him have a better game as a pass rusher.
Yeah, he's absorbed a lot of snaps. Him and Galbraith are tied for the most snaps of any non-offensive lineman on this team, 101. So I think the conditioning has been encouraging. I think he's gotten better, but it'd be nice to get that first sack in this finale.
All right. Any other intrigue in here?
I mean, there's always intrigue across the board, whether you're talking outside linebacker, still with Leota. Carson Bruner might get some more reps in this one. No Devin Harper. Maybe they get some of the inside backers out of this game early. Well, Patrick Queen playing this game. It sounds like that's certainly a possibility. We'd like to get the green dot on him for a road game. But, I mean, yeah, you can go across the board on this one and really talk about any position.
And that's a great point too, even playing into the secondary guys and all like that, because you're talking about communication and all like that. Maybe you want to get those guys out there, Patrick Queen, Elliott, Ramsey, just to get people used to talking to each other out there.
Right. Yeah, to me, this is not about getting a good matchup or winning this preseason game in the sense of, Ramsey making a play. Those guys can make plays. It's about the procedural stuff. It's about communication. It's about, adjusting, talking inside a stadium. And yeah, you do it in practice too. And even those guys, I think, have a headset in practice, but it's just not the same whenever you're inside a stadium. And especially for a team that's going on the road in week number 1, you're playing a couple of road games early this year. Let's get inside another stadium on a road game, get together. And just so it's not, I just don't want to do it the first time against the Jets whenever these games count. I want to have a little something to fall back on. And you never know. Maybe something comes up in the game where there was a mischeck on this, this audible or this motion, and there was a mischeck. Let's get those things all addressed and cleaned up as much as possible before these things become live.
All right. Mason Rudolph, how much do you play him in this game?
Probably not much overall. I mean, Rodgers won't play. Obviously, Rudolph will start. He probably gets the first drive, maybe the second if you go 3 and out. And then from there, I'm good with just Thompson and Woodside to finish it out.
And are you more showcasing Thompson in this one?
I mean, he's going to play a lot. It's not like I'm going to be itching to get Logan Woodside in there. So I think you get Rudolph the first drive, maybe the second drive. I think you play Thompson into the second half, and then maybe give Woodside the fourth quarter.
All right. What's going to be the quality of this game overall?
Yeah, it might not be great overall. Carolina's backups are in. Even if Pittsburgh plays some of their guys, those guys are going to be out pretty early. So, yeah, it's going to be probably some sloppiness. Weather could, as you said, it's a great point, could impact things and make a typically sloppy game even sloppier. But you hope Pittsburgh's a little more buttoned up after a pretty sloppy game against Tampa Bay. But with a lot of new pieces and guys getting signed, got guys coming in on the fly. Yeah, the fourth quarter could be bumpy.
All right. What else did Mike Thomas say that's worth going over?
That was basically it. It was mainly just about who was going to play, who wasn't. He said he was comfortable with Rodgers not playing, and the joint practice helped, and what he's seen on the field all dictated that Rodgers is going to sit. I think it'll be the first Steelers quarterback to not a starter to not play in the preseason in a long, long time.
Right.
I was trying to find last time Ben didn't play in a preseason game. I think he did basically every year. PFF stat, it goes back to, I forget, like 2012 or something. So that's as far back as I could go. But yeah, it's obviously it's a different situation with a 41-year-old quarterback, but I still wouldn't have minded seeing him out there for a couple of snaps just as again, that new component for a new team.
Has he decided what helmet he's going to wear yet?
I haven't followed much. I know he's been upset about his old one getting canceled, but I have not paid any attention to it.
All right. Moving on from Tomlin, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Roster predictions.
All of the children are grown up.
Oh man, okay. Dave's in a mood today. I like it.
I am. You got me up a little earlier today. We're recording this a little bit earlier.
Let's do our roster predictions. I know you haven't officially published yours by the time I think people listen to this, but you know what your roster looks like, and they're probably going to be pretty similar. We'll certainly debate and talk about our final additions, which is the main thing after this Panthers game. So quarterback, I'm still keeping Rodgers, Rudolph, Heyward. Still have some questions about will he go to IR, but for now, I think he just makes the 53 and gets healthy.
All right, you've hedged enough. You've tried to throw that out there as a talking point and try to sway me and sway the masses and all. Do you think Will Howard will go to IR in any way, shape, or form?
That door's not closed to me. I'd like to get a little more information about his health. Obviously, it doesn't sound like he's throwing. It doesn't. He's not going to play in this game. I'm almost positive of. Some of the beat guys are suggesting that there is some sort of progress there, that they think he'll be good for week one, but take those things with a grain of salt. Ultimately, if you're making me choose right now, yes or no, no, he does not start the year on IR to return.
All right, I'm obviously with you on that with all three of those. Will they trade? Will they be able to trade Skylar Thompson?
I don't want to give away my prediction, not my prediction, but my scenario with Thompson for tomorrow. But there's an opportunity there. I think you mentioned some teams that could use the services of a veteran quarterback who's had a nice summer.
Yeah, look, if you want to root for one other than health, uh, if there's one thing other than health in this game that you want to root for Skylar Thompson to just have a fantastic game, right? Is there
Yeah.
anything other than that maybe that you're rooting for? Beanie, you'd obviously like to see Beanie have a nice game. You'd like to see Caleb, you'd like to obviously see the offense come out and run the football 9-10 times behind the starters and Caleb to have a nice game. I think some of those things are probably given. But as far as really, really super impactful things, isn't Skylar Thompson having a really nice game, something to really root for in this one?
It is. Yeah. You want to obviously root for everyone to do well, everyone
Right.
to look good. Some of these backup offensive linemen, Andres Pete to have a really good game, Dylan Cook to have a great game. But from a trade standpoint and kind of an intrigue standpoint, yeah, Thompson having a game like his first one would be great for Pittsburgh.
All right, we're staying chalk here with the running backs too, right?
Yeah, no change unless there's an injury. This isn't going to be chalk the whole way through. Jalen Warren, Caleb Johnson, and Kenneth Gainwell. Again, those practice squad spots could be interesting, but your 53 is locked in.
All right. As far as practice squad guys, it would make a lot of sense for Sermon and Nichols right now to be in the driver's seat for potentially two spots there, right?
It would. Fullback, no fullback there. Tight end, chalk as well. Frymuth, Jonnu Smith, Donna Washington, Connor Heyward.
Agreed.
I'm keeping things the same at receiver too. DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, Ben Skoranek, Scotty Miller. Now, Gabe Davis, potential addition down the line. That obviously would impact things. I don't think Woods makes it. Could Brandon Johnson be a sleeper? I still like the rookies, Herman, Keyshawn Williams, go to the practice squad. So that's the 5 for me.
All right. I would agree with you there. The only huge question mark is obviously the whole Gabe Davis thing. And I suppose if you did sign him, you're keeping 6 instead of 5.
Yeah, I think in this scenario, I think Miller makes it either way. I think you'd have Davis be that, maybe not the number 6 receiver, but be added as a 6th receiver. I guess the other consideration is Skoranek with a toe and what's happening there. We don't know exactly his status, but hopefully that's not going to cause a problem for him to be on IR to start the season.
For those that didn't listen to the live stream the other night, let's rehash the whole potential thing with Scotty Miller.
What do you mean potential thing with Scotty Miller?
If you needed a roster spot for a turnaround of a guy to IR and all like that. And once again, we throw these predictions out for the initial 53, not the week 153, right?
Right. Yeah, this is the initial 53 at August 26th at Cutdowns at 4 p.m. What the roster will look like, not about anything that happens after that.
All right. If you needed, because obviously you get 2 guys that you could send to IR early, but any more than as designated to return. But if you needed any more than that, a player obviously would have to be on your initial 53 before sending him to IR during that lag of days between cut down and week 1.
Right.
Scotty Miller, and we call these yo-yo boomerang players, whatever you want to call. Scotty Miller seems to be in the position where he best fits at least one of maybe just a handful of guys that you could yo-yo around. And he's got $167,500 roster bonus. They didn't give it to him evidently in a signing bonus. They made it a 53-man roster bonus for him. So in other words, if you cut him, even just to turn him around, there would be no dead. Not that 167,500 doesn't prevent. We've seen it in the past with guys yo back, I think, over the years and all like that. But if you had a handshake agreement, he a guy that wouldn't have to clear waivers or anything like that. Scotty Miller sounds like the best potential candidate to be a yo guy if you had to get a guy on your initial 53 and then immediately turn around and send him to IR.
Yeah, I think it's a great point by you, the financial aspect to it. Obviously, you just tell them, hey, we're going to cut you. We'll bring you back tomorrow once we make this IR move. And that would make a lot of sense if you had 3 players who were IR candidates.
All right.
So interesting there. And that could be the quirk of the initial 53, which is often very quirky in a lot of ways. Like I mentioned previously, Pittsburgh kept 8 defensive linemen on the initial 53 last year because Logan Lee had to go to IR. I think they kept 9 receivers when Calvin Austin got hurt because he was going to IR. So you've had some really kind of funky initial configurations before.
All right.
Offensive tackle, Broderick Jones, Troy Fautanu, Calvin Anderson, Dylan Cook. Is Cook a lock? Is Anderson, what's his health? Some questions there, Dave.
Yeah, this is where I might differ with you a little bit over here. I kind of wonder, is Calvin Anderson going to be one of these 2 players they send to IR designated to return?
He could be. We just don't know his status right
Right.
now. I've heard 0 updates since August 1st, that Friday Night Lights practice, whenever he came off the field late. I didn't see him at training camp, haven't heard a thing about him. So, yeah, I may end up putting Anderson on IR to return for my last prediction. We just don't know much about his status right now.
Right. Just to be different in this, because we're going to be very similar on a lot of these here. Just to be different on this one, I'm going to say Calvin Anderson goes to IR as one of 2 players. I'm going to say that they only keep 9 in total with the rest of the 9 that you have, rest of the 9 that, because you have them keeping 10. I have them keeping 9. In other words, I'm throwing Calvin Anderson just to IR. I'm keeping Cook and Andres Pete as 2 of my 9. And then obviously the other ones are Broderick Jones, Troy Fautanu, Dylan Cook, Isaac Seumalo, Mason McCormick. I was glad to see I was kind of wondering about Seumalo, so I was glad to see that picture. I know that probably doesn't mean anybody to anybody, but it mattered to me seeing him in pads yesterday. Isaac Seumalo, Mason McCormick, Spencer Anderson, Zach Frazier, and I'm going to trust that Ryan McCollum's ready to go by week 1.
Yeah,
so that means you had you sent Max Sharping packing since the last one, right?
I did. My swamp here was Pete on it. He did look good in the game. Tackle and guard a little more valuable than guard and center that Sharping can play. And with McCollum being healthy, I think Sharping can go to the practice squad. So that's our difference there.
All right. If you're keeping 10 offensive linemen and you're assuming, let's just for all practical purposes, you don't think Calvin Anderson goes to IR designated to return. In other words, they open up week 1 with 10 offensive linemen on their 53. Who are your 2 inactives?
At that point, Pete and Cook, if Anderson is healthy for week 1.
All right. What if Anderson isn't healthy for week 1, but not? If
he's not healthy, then Calvin Anderson and Andres Pete will be my inactives.
Okay. All right. So you went 25 offense, and the only difference that we have is by 1 offensive lineman. So I have 24 players being kept, and the only difference I have is no Calvin Anderson. I have him going to IR.
Right. All right. Defensively, defensive line. I only have 6 right now, Dave. Could there be room for a 7th? There could. We'll see. Cam Heyward, Derek Harmon, Y.A. Black, Isaiah Loudermilk, Keanu Benton, Daniel Aquale. I think Heyward, Harmon, Black, Benton are definitely locks. Is Aquale a lock? Are we just kind of taking that for granted? Backup nose tackle. He's been okay this summer, but it's not been outstanding.
Yeah. Who are your options there, though?
You could put Logan Lee on and have Black. I know he's not gotten nose tackle work. Terrell Austin keeps floating that he will eventually get nose tackle work. Harmon, could he play it in a pinch? I mean, I think Quale makes it, but I'm just kind of challenging our assumptions.
Right. And if if we're talking about only these six, Heyward, Harmon, Black, Loudermilk, Benton, and Aquale would obviously be the most questionable of the bunch. I think in my previous one, I had Otomewo as an addition to that. I don't have a good reason to keep him around. I guess the only question is if they keep 7, would it be a guy like Logan Lee?
Sure.
Does Logan Lee come in? I'm less. The more I look at tape and all like that, it makes no sense. Otomewo to keep him. So that's a long way of saying I'm keeping the same 6 as you are right now.
Agreed. To me, it really is a question. I mean, Loudermilk, he's not in pen. I think he makes it probably inactive to start the season. Just known run depth overall, run defense depth. Lee, this could be real make or break for him on the 53.
Right.
Edge rushers, Chalk, Watt, Highsmith, Herbig, and Swear. The only thing to consider is if Herbig isn't ready for week 1 and Highsmith's a little dinged up too, he's working his way back. Do you do something there? But I don't know who you'd even keep. Leota, maybe? I mean, Leal, I think, just gets cut. So the help is the only kind of minor question, but these are going to be your 4.
I'm with you on these 4, but if you did have to keep somebody because of Herbig and the special team snap absorption, it would have to be Leota, it feels like.
But that feels more like you can just elevate him week 1 if you had to, rather than keep him on the initial 53. I think he'll pass 2 waivers A-OK. Inside linebacker, Queen, Wilson, Malik Harrison, Cole Holcomb, Mark Robinson. I think the top 4 are pretty much locked in. Mark Robb, I think, makes it 2. Could that be a yo-yo guy too, I suppose? But I think Scotty Miller makes more sense. I think Robinson's going to beat out Carson Bruner.
I do as well, too. You should have no problems getting Bruner to the practice squad, and if you needed an elevation for whatever reason, you could go down that route.
Corner the same for me. Joey Porter Jr., Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, Brendan Eccles, Beanie Bishop, and James Pierre. So I'm still keeping Bishop and Pierre on the back end.
I'm with you on this one as well, too. So that leaves me with the same 6 corners. Corey Trice, I think, are you then speculating that he goes IR to return, one of the 2 along with let's say Calvin Anderson, or do you think he gets cut and he's healthy enough you get him to the practice squad?
This was before I saw the video that you sent from the FOPO of him doing some stuff on the side, although that's no guarantee he can avoid IR for Corey Trice. So I have my IR to return, guys. I can mention him now if you'd like. It was Dante Kent and Corey Trice Jr. This is before Tomlin said that Kent was getting some work in, so Kent probably wouldn't be an IR to return. You probably just cut him, go to the practice squad. Trice seems still uncertain right now, but those were my 2 IR to return slots of Kent and Trice.
All right, if you had a do-over knowing what you did right now, would you remove Kent from that and then add Calvin Anderson to that potentially?
I would remove Kent. I don't know on Calvin. I'm hoping maybe we can hear something on him. I have no idea what his status is. So I maybe, but I could just tell you I would take Kent off of that right now.
All right. You know what? I'm going to be one short here.
Right, because you only kept 24 offensively.
Right.
You want to put Lee on there as a 7th defensive lineman for now?
Yeah, it's either that or I keep Trice knowing he's close.
Okay.
So I think that's an interesting conversation there is, do you keep Lee as a 7th or do you keep Trice as a 7th corner because he's close and you'd like to be as deep as possible there, even though he would probably be inactive for week 1? I think that's an interesting because either one of those guys is likely to be inactive, right?
Oh, sure.
Lee or Trice?
Yeah, I think Trice is more valuable, the better player, but you could also probably cut Corey Trice because who's going to claim this guy that just can't stay healthy? No one even has tape on this guy hardly. But yeah, Trice will be another one of those guys that you're just not sure where he lands health-wise that can make this thing tricky when making your last prediction. I think from like who's going to make it, who's going to win battles, it's fairly open and shut for this roster. The injuries, as often is the case, is as I always say, the fly in the ointment.
All right. I guess, all right, let me rewind and let me put Logan Lee on. And then I'll run the same 6 corners as you did. And for right now, I'll have Corey Trice going to IR designated to return.
And then the same
along
four
with
safeties,
Anderson.
right, of Elliott, Thornhill, Killebrew, and Chuck Clark.
Right. We're chalk there. There's no reason to change that.
Special teams gets interesting, more interesting than usual. Boswell at kicker. That's not a discussion. Punter, I switched. I went Corliss Waitman. This thing's super close with Cameron Johnson, but I think Waitman's had a heck of a summer. Maybe the left-footed punter aspect offers intrigue as well. And then I'm still having Christian Kuntz on the 53. I think what'll happen there is what I outlined top of the show. They keep Kuntz, they cut McQuaid, sign him to the practice squad, elevate if needed for week 1.
All right. I will just, for the sake of no real reason whatsoever, I'll just go with the veteran still and go with Cameron Johnston just so we differ a little bit more in here. And we'll see what happens in this final preseason game and see which way I lean after that. So I'll be different. I'll be different just to be obtuse here. And I will go Cameron Johnston there.
And then my 5 game day inactives: Will Heyward, Andres Pete, Scotty Miller, Cole Holcomb, and Beanie Bishop Jr.
I will go Heyward, Logan Lee,
An offensive lineman, you're keeping 9, usually 8.
I will make Cook inactive.
Okay. Who's your right tackle if somebody goes down? If Fautanu goes down?
Probably Pete.
Has Pete played right tackle before?
I have to go back and look. If I could obviously rearrange the deck chairs and go look. Dylan Cook hasn't even played an NFL game yet either.
Sure.
I can always go Broderick Jones back over to the right side.
Oh boy. All right. I'm going to get in the weeds of inactive.
Scotty Miller, and then Beanie, probably the last one there. So those would be the only way I'd be different, and really no reason other than just to be opposite of you. I'll go Cook instead of Pete.
All right, fair enough. And then at my practice squad, I won't read off all the practice squad names, but they're on the site. All right, Dave. We'll have our last predictions shortly after the Panthers game.
All right. I mean, it feels like we've got of all the. It feels like of all the guys that we've talked about, the 53 will come out of the 56 guys, right? Sort of.
I mean, that's true of most years, I assume. Just some of the injury stuff that could really trip us up is all I'm really looking at. I mean, in terms of what are the non-injury debates to be had? Does Lee make the team? Does Bishop become a lock? Who's that last offensive lineman? Do they keep 9? Do they keep 10? That's the kind of stuff that we'll be talking about.
Right. So it feels like, once again, I mean, I think you could draw out 56 names and the 53 come out of that. And the punter battle obviously being included in that, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be the biggest coin flip of all, is who this team's punter is, and could they keep 2 on the initial 53? That is also still a possibility of the weird constructions that often come this time of year.
I mean, we had this talk about Logan Lee and or Corey Trice. I mean, could you technically cut both of those guys and keep both punters again, just to see if you get any bites up until week 1?
Sure. I mean, I don't have Lee or Trice on my 53, and that could that be a situation like we said, Scotty Miller for the IR situation. We also talked about if you keep 2 punters that have a weird construction, Scotty Miller could be the yo-yo guy until that punter situation gets more clarity. So, Miller's not just for the IR situation; it could just be for any sort of weird. If you keep Skylar Thompson, want to try to trade him, all that kind of stuff could come into play.
All right. Let me do a search real quick on Twitter, see if anybody has mentioned Calvin Anderson.
I haven't even seen him at training camp. I don't want to assume what that means. And obviously camp has been over for a week, and I'm sure he's around, but it looked like oblique they were working on, and that was the Friday Night Lights practice very late that last team period. And Tomlin said it was more than day to day, and that's the last we've heard.
All right. I'm not seeing. Let me see if I see anything else on.
Has anybody said anything on Calvin Anderson?
Not that I'm seeing.
All right,
how many? When is the last time you saw Calvin Anderson? Does Calvin Anderson still exist? When is the last time that you saw him practice in camp?
August 1st, the Friday Night Lights practice is when he got hurt. He,
All
he
right.
has not practiced since, at least
And,
in training camp.
and do we know what, and we don't know, do we know what he's dealing with?
We do not definitively. They were looking at like his right hip, which kind of told me like maybe oblique. We could get Dr. Mellon here. I'm not quite sure, but it looked like they're kind of working on the right side of Calvin Anderson.
I mean, do you want Calvin Anderson, if he's cleared and ready to go and he doesn't play in this preseason finale? Now, look, if he plays in this preseason finale, all bets are off then, right? I mean,
Oh, he's healthy. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah. Do you want that guy going into the season dressing and being the next guy up? Do you know enough about him? Have you seen enough of him to be comfortable in him having a helmet?
I have a lot of other choices right now. He's a veteran. I mean, he's not some sort of rookie. So yeah, I think he'd be the swing guy if he's healthy. I just don't know if he's healthy.
All right. Okay. All right. I think we got it surrounded.
All right, Dave, we're running out of time here. I got something to go to in a little bit. So if you want to get to a reader email or two, feel free to close out today's show. Otherwise, we can wrap things up and we'll come back Friday to talk about the Panthers game.
All right. Why don't you look around while I search to see if there's anything else that we're missing that we need to cover? Let's go to Rob Jones. Wait. Let's see here. Your play at the line, check into a running play. Okay, no, we got that one the other day from Jeff Kinney. Let's go to Rob Jones. Hello, gentlemen. It's been some time since the Steelers have done multiple extensions from the same draft class. In my mind, the top 5 of this class as of now are all trending that way. He's talking about the 2023 draft class. Broderick Jones, if he balls out this year with conversion back to left tackle. Joey Porter, no way we are not extending him, he says. Keanu Benton needs more sacks. Darnell Washington, he has unleashed the Darnell. Extend as soon as possible. Nick Herbig, beast, might price himself out. Then he's got Corey Trice, yet to be determined. Probably not Spencer Anderson. He says a Loudermilk like 1-year deal. This would be a great article topic or an exercise with percentages of who you guys think is worthy. Love the pod. Open up the Steelers Depot gear shop, he says. I need a sweatshirt. All right. I mean, he's obviously hit on him. Broderick Jones, it all depends. I mean, look, here's the first decision that you need to make on Broderick Jones. Do they pick up his 5th-year option? That's the big talk. Joey Porter Jr., it seems like one way or another they're extending him. I agree with Rob on this one. Keanu Benton, what doesn't need to happen for Keanu Benton to be an extension candidate next offseason?
What needs to happen for him
What
to get an extension?
doesn't need to happen?
What doesn't? Oh, I don't.
Because
Okay.
it almost feels like he's going to get extended, right?
Benton?
Right.
I mean, he's got to prove it. He's got to get a lot of sacks this year. The pass rush has to really turn into tangible production.
So you're saying he's not a lock to get an extension of some sort next offseason?
No. Are you saying he's a lock?
I'm saying he's going to get some sort of an extension. I just don't. I think the degree of it is up for discussion.
Okay. I mean, I think a lot of these guys have a lot to prove. I mean, I think a lot of these guys could if they have good seasons, but I want to let the season play out and go from there.
Is Joey Porter a lock to get an extension?
He's a lot closer than Benton. Would I call him 100% lock? Like I think, like if he has a bad season, is he still going to get an extension? No, no. So I wouldn't say that Porter's a lock. I wouldn't say any of these guys are. I think Washington is the closest thing to a lock right now. To be honest.
Yeah, I've come in. You asked me about that the other day. There, I've come around a lot on Darnell Washington. What do you think about all this continued talk about him moving to tackle? Daniel Jeremiah was on Pat McAfee, and he says, man, this guy should really consider it just for his own checkbook.
Well, it's not his choice. It's the team's choice. I mean, it's a lot of noise right now. He's a tight end this year, and that's where I think he'll be for the foreseeable future. So, plus you got 2 tackles right now in Jones and Fautanu, so there's not an incentive to go kick him inside, make him a backup, keep him off the field. Now, if Jones falters, even then, you're going to look at other tackle options. It's a lot of noise right now. I'm very happy with Washington in his current role.
Right. Obviously, Corey Trice, Spencer Anderson, nothing to talk about there. Nick Herbig is going to be an interesting discussion. Look, Rob, I'll tell you this. I don't know if we need to go deep into this discussion right now. 2025 is going to tell us a lot about Jones, Porter, Benton, Washington, and Nick Herbig, period.
Yeah, and by extension, Omar Khan and the job that he's done. I talked about the next 18 months are going to be really important for shaping Khan's view and kind of how he's doing in Pittsburgh. I still think that grade's sort of incomplete right now. I think by January of 27, we're going to learn a lot more about the job Omar Khan has done.
All right, Brett Nile is back in here. He's a little bit long here, but he's talking about under the radar trade candidates. We've had discussions about a guy like Liao who could be traded at cut down. I don't think Liao at this point now. Would you, is there a reason you're an NFL team that you'd trade for DeMarvin Liao?
Don't spoil all my articles for tomorrow, Dave. I obviously he is very much fringe, but there might be a case I make for it tomorrow. You'll have to wait and see.
All right. He's saying under the radar, Cameron Johnston. There's been an assumption that it'll be Waitman that will be traded, but personally think they're comfortable with either punter. Look, I don't think either one of us have dead out said that if they trade one of them, it's going to be Waitman. I do think that this is a competition, and I think you choose the best guy and you attempt to trade the other one. So I wouldn't necessarily say that we've ignored the possibility and have rubber stamped that it'll be Waitman, right?
I know in the offseason we said it was Johnston's job to lose, and if Johnston looked good, then he probably gets the spot. And Johnston has looked good, but I think over the last couple of weeks, and certainly in today's conversation, we've talked about this thing as a real coin flip.
All right, he's got Cole Holcomb on here. He says his return is a great story, and obviously he's a talented player. However, there simply may not be snaps available for him, and guys like Bruner and Robinson may make more sense as backups with special teams value. Holcomb, on the other hand, may be more valuable in a trade, and he's probably the best starting caliber linebacker available on the market right now. You'd also be doing him a solid by letting him get playing time and a chance to earn a new contract next year. All apologies to Cole Holcomb. I don't care what his market is right now. I don't care about doing them a solid by letting them get playing time elsewhere. You can never be deep enough at any position on a football field. End of story. And I go back to a couple of years ago with all the problems that they had at the inside linebacker position. You were 2 snaps away from being too deep into your, and it's not like Holcomb's got an expensive contract because they remember they got him to take a little bit of a pay cut too. I do not think Cole Holcomb should be listed as a trade candidate because there's no reason to trade him.
Yeah, they're happy with him. Terrell Austin called him a potential 3-down guy, and Andy Weidl talked about him when talking about depth there. He's going to stay.
Now, if he was making $7-8 million or something, and I was comfortable with the special teams aspect of a guy like Bruner or something like that, then we talk about it. But I will be shocked. I will be pretty shocked if they trade Cole Holcomb, and I think Alex feels the same on that.
Yeah. All right, Dave, anything else? I got to get out of here.
Connor Heyward, he has on here. He says, I understand you're not cutting him, but he's also a square peg in a round hole, blah, blah, blah. Make more sense. Connor Heyward's not getting traded, right?
Yeah, special teams, 4th tight end. Certainly the role is minimal offensively. I understand the reader's point, Arthur Smith having a tough time finding a role for him, but he's going to stay.
All right, we got to get out of here. Alex has got somewhere he's got to be here. So, in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter, X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, follow the directions that way. So, until Friday, we'll be recapping the game against the Panthers. Make sure to go to SteelersDepot.com. A lot of great content up throughout the rest of the weekend here. As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.